Hey guys, what's up? This is Diego here at Cinemageddon Reviews. So, while my evil counterpart is dealing with the shock and trauma of the Amazing Spider-Man reviews, I am taking a much-needed break before my depression and anxiety become too much for me to handle. So while I'm here, I thought I'd go ahead and review a game that's been out for a little while now that I definitely took way too long to review because, man, is it entertaining and I just couldn't put it down, you guys. So, let's talk about God of War Ragnarok. Now, before we begin, this review is not going to contain spoilers for God of War Ragnarok, but it will contain spoilers for God of War 2018, because there's kind of no way that I can review Ragnarok without talking about the previous game. So now that that's clear, here we go. So God of War Ragnarok takes place a few years after the events of the previous game, and we follow Kratos and Atreus as they embark on another journey. This time they have to visit each of the 9 realms as they search for the answers to the prophecy they discovered in Jotunheim, and try to survive, or if they can, prevent Ragnarok. So let me start this off by saying that I love the previous game. It had fun, addictive gameplay, great characters, and a really compelling story that took the franchise in a new direction, as well as give some much-needed commentary on the older God of War games. A lot of other people agreed with me that not only was it the best God of War game in the franchise, but also one of the best games made in recent years, maybe even of all time. It won Game of the Year, among a ton of other awards, and it made a lot of new fans. I myself grew out of the older God of War games when I realized they didn't really have much to offer me besides extreme blood, gore, and objectification of women, with the exception of Athena. And I must admit, it might have taken me a little too long to realize how fucked up that objectification part was. And when the 2018 game came out and I tried it, I was back on board. It was a pretty refreshing and much more positive experience, both from a gameplay and story standpoint. So we were all very excited for the sequel and what it was going to touch on, and sure enough, God of War Ragnarok delivers on those expectations and then some. This is a very worthy sequel that stays true to what made the last one so special, as well as expand on that in some very great and unexpected ways. Just like in 2018, the gameplay and the graphics are spectacular. God of War 2018 gave us a new type of playstyle that we hadn't really seen before in the franchise, that sort of close quarters combat that was new but felt just as vicious and aggressive as in the old games. In this game, that comes back and it's even better than last time. The combat mechanics in this game are very satisfying, and there's a lot of new types of enemies that you can encounter that make things feel fresh and challenging. Each enemy has a particular strength and weakness that keep you constantly engaged in the gameplay. This is a much harder game to put down than the last one. There are also new types of weapons you can find, and different ways that you can use your power-ups and special abilities. The puzzles and the challenges also encourage using all your weapons and abilities, and the variety of these seems to have been expanded on as well. So it's a good expansion without making anything feel too confusing or overwhelming. You never once feel lost or like anything that you're using or doing is unnecessary. As far as the visuals, this game has plenty of pretty imagery to discover. As some of you who played the last game and were looking forward to this one might expect, all 9 realms are available for gameplay this time. They actually have some really great and unique designs that each feel different from each other. I actually had a really good time exploring and seeing how Fimbulwinter affected all of them. This game also runs in 4K at 60 frames per second, at least on the PS5, and it looks gorgeous. I had a great experience playing it. It never glitched or crashed on me, except for one time where an update file got installed automatically and then the PS5 kind of shut off the game, but that's really more the PS5's fault. So I'm going to tread lightly on this because it kind of involves spoilers, but I'm going to do my best to dance around them. So this game incorporates a new type of playstyle at certain points in the story. It's similar to the playstyle in the previous God of War game, but it's different. It's got different movement, different forms of combat, different types of movement, and it's kind of hard to describe without getting into specifics, but those who have played the game know which parts of the story I'm talking about. Without going into detail, this was something that was actually very ambitious of them to do, and I'm still a little surprised that they did it, but as soon as I discovered it as I was playing through the story, I fell in love with it instantly. If anything, it made me love the game even more. It was really exciting and refreshing to see this playstyle used and the part that it actually played in the story. The only thing that disappointed me about it was that it doesn't actually come back once you finish the story, but I have a really good feeling that if they make another God of War game, it might actually come back, because the level of ambition and the potential you have here is just... There's no way that the next game will be satisfying if this playstyle doesn't come back. Now, just like the last game, Ragnarok delivers on a powerful and deeply emotional story. This time the stakes are higher because Ragnarok is approaching and Kratos and Atreus are discovering what their role is going to be in this big upcoming event. But the story is extremely well written, and it manages to balance big world-ending stakes with the themes of personal growth, and it uses them really well to make the stakes even higher. Because yes, Ragnarok is coming, but what makes the story so fascinating is that whether it comes or doesn't come, Kratos and Atreus have something to lose, depending on their actions. The story has a ton of twists and turns, and some really interesting additions in terms of supporting characters and villains. In particular, I was surprised at the direction they took with Thor and Odin. They are the main antagonists of the game, and the last game did set up some pretty huge expectations. But like I said, Ragnarok delivers and then some. The first hour of this game alone exceeds expectations. There's some very interesting interactions between Kratos and both of these characters, but yet the more you play through the story, the deeper it goes, and you get the sense that these three are similar and different in just the right ways. There are many points in the story where I was just so emotionally invested, I thought I would burst into tears. The journeys these characters go on are just so compelling. In a lot of ways, it's better than what they did in the last game. So overall, God of War Ragnarok does way more than just live up to its predecessor. It exceeds all expectations by a mile in almost every way. This is a game that you should definitely play. It has a lot of surprises, a lot of fun gameplay, and a gripping and emotional story that sucks you in from minute one. I can honestly say that this might be one of the best games I've ever played. And if you play it, you might think the same thing. And with that said, my rating for God of War Ragnarok is 10 out of 10. So if any of you guys have played Ragnarok, what did you guys think? Did you enjoy it? And if so, do you think it's better than the 2018 game? Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to like this video and subscribe, follow us on all our social medias, and please support our Patreon, we really appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Diego for Cinemageddon Reviews, and I'll see you on the Wasteland.